Hello, everyone. This is the Para Podcast, like we always do. We're discussing African paramedicine. We're taking it to the world. Today we have a special guest.
I'm regular.
It's a regular suspect. He's always here, but you might not know the experience that he's always in the corner, quiet, asking questions here and there. He's interested in business and stuff like that. But today we want to focus on his experience working in the specific area, very remote, very different. And we know that there are a lot of people that are actually moving to that space, not only in paramedicine, but also in general. People are going there, they want to do this thing, they want to see that part of employment, and that is working on a cruise ship. So Elias today is going to chat to us and tell us about working on a cruise ship. How are you, Elias?
Doing great. Absolutely no pressure. Just being put on the spot. But you know what? Let's chat about it. Let's chat about it. Welcome to our viewers. Hopefully today you can get a little bit of value from the conversation, and especially about working in a cruise ship. So I think somewhere around, I think it was beginning of 2023, after I came back from the Qatar World Cup, and I was doing some community work. I had this recruiter that was on my case. He kept asking, "Hey, listen, I have a gig here, and I have a gig there," and and she kept offering me this job on a cruise ship. And one side of me is kind of like, well, sounds very adventurous, like, I could do this. You're traveling the world a little bit, you're not working on the ambulance, and you're probably going to have a lot of off time because, when you're not working, you can always explore and whatever the case might be. So I thought, it's worthwhile. It does take a while, to be fair, like in terms of the paperwork. So yeah, I guess I'll let you ask the questions and then I can get into it because it's quite broad and you can
Yeah.
get lost with the channels that you take.
So I think how I was going to start is I was going to say, how did you get a job there? So you can tell us. You said this recruiter just approached you. Do you know each other? How did that happen?
I think it's, the thing about recruiters is that, and this is one thing I know, I don't remember who I was chatting to, and I asked, hey, how's your LinkedIn profile looking? And they're like, I don't have a LinkedIn profile. And I was like, why do you not have a LinkedIn profile? Like, I think it's a thing that you must have. And I think especially if you are someone that thinks that has value and you could be employed by anyone, I think it's important that you update your profile on LinkedIn. Because as recruiters, because I recruit on the side as well, what we do is we go on LinkedIn, we put out a job post, we look at who has this experience, who's most likely to meet it, and we try and book a meeting with you, just to see, hey, can we have a conversation about this? I have this job here, would you be interested? And if you're interested, hey, this is how much they are paying. Or what I might do is I might just approach you with a salary to say that, hey, this is how much you offer. So, but besides the point, they saw my profile on LinkedIn and they were like, hey, listen, I have this gig going, would you be interested? And I was like, maybe we can have a chat and we can talk about it. So she gave me a call. We spoke about it. She told me the salary. She told me which company I was gonna be working for. And I was like, yeah, I'll be interested. How long does the process take? I think that's the one part that was a little bit of a downfall for me, because she said the process takes about between, I think, 2 to 6 months just to finish the whole preparation part. It could be shorter. It could be two months. It could be 3 months. It could be 4 months. Just because you have to do a medical, you have to do your C book that you apply for. You have to do the modules, just because you'll be using different guidelines in terms of treatment. So you have to do training before that, before you get onto the cruise ship. And you'll be using, depending on which area you are working, if you are working in the US, you'll be using the US guidelines, WHO, and what's the other one? Disease or infection control. What do they call it? I can't remember now, but yeah, it's one of those. So they use those guidelines. So you kind of have to learn, and there's a lot of things that you have to learn around security in terms of just being aware of pirates and security, on the on the cruise ship. And these are things that you not really know. So you have to do training before you get on board. Just to be aware and yeah, and several stuff and just rules and regulations about the cruise ship in terms of that you can't just go hang out with a guest, you know, you can't you can't try and form any form of relations with a guest, even if they initiated, you know, you need to be able to. But yeah, then I know I'm
Okay.
getting into it, but
This
but that's
is
how I got the job through this
this is
recruiter.
interesting. More and more, the more you
Now,
talk, this is interesting.
now, Elias, sorry, Lucy. I want to ask, because you mentioned something important, and I think you've once told me about it, but I was like, I was probably ignorant about it. But how important for us to keep our LinkedIn profile updated, especially for recruiters, whether you're looking for a job or not looking for a job. And if you had to mention a few things that you think are important to keep that should be updated there on your LinkedIn profile, what are those things?
Wow. I think just first of all, I don't say have a decent profile, have a profile picture. Because then I can always say, oh, okay, nah, is who. Some people do not have profile pictures because they are afraid to be profiled. I guess the profile, you are gonna be profiled, but they don't want to have a profile picture on it just because of ethnicity sake. You know, some people might be biased because you're black. They might be biased because you're Chinese. Or you're like, now we have too many Filipinos. We can't include this one in our shortlist. You know, things of that kind. But it's important just have a picture on there, even just a simple picture, as long as just to show that you're human. And one other thing is just usually there's a bio. Just chat a little bit about what you're doing. You know, sort of like where you have been. And it's very important for you to update. You know, the kind of education that you're doing, the types of trainings that you have done, the kind of certifications that you have. So and involve keywords like paramedic. So when I do a search, I search for keywords like positions paramedic right now. Or if you were an event practitioner, for instance, also include that because when I look for event practitioners, that is what I'm gonna put into the search, and that's what's gonna pop up. So it's just so that you can be visible. And if they do these random searches, sometimes it's just for a project, sometimes it's for consultation, all kinds of things. People look for people on LinkedIn so that people can reach out to you and it can be much easier to find you. And I will not really say add your CV or add your whole life there, but pertinent things, you know, your profession, your qualifications, where you have worked, you know, just things of that kind. Try and keep it as current as much as possible because you never know who could be out there looking for you and what kind of offer they might give you. Because to be very honest, at times when you're not looking for a job, you'll be surprised to see what kind of offers come your way. You know, we're running let's say a movie set here, and since you are in this area, we just wanted to know if you'll be available for 2 days. This is the what we are paying, you know, and you will provide transport and all this. Yeah, just pop up and you know we can have a conversation and see if you would be a good fit. So it can be anything like that. I hope that
Wow.
kind of answers your question a little bit.
No, look, it does, and I hope recruiters are not gonna hear this. But you know, there's certain experiences that I have that are on my LinkedIn profile, and I think that's how some of the recruiters have been able to find me. I never thought of that; it's important, but now that you've mentioned it, now I can relate back to how important it is because it helps recruiters, as you said, that to find us. If you, especially if your profile is up to date, and increases the chances of us being noticed, and also increases the career opportunities. And that's what I've seen with my LinkedIn profile. And what I've seen is that if one person searches for me, then there's going to be multiple people looking at my LinkedIn profile. That maybe because of one person has looked at it and the other people look at it as well. But yeah, you did answer my question. Um,
Yeah. And I think it's also just very important that you follow people that are in your space of work. Because when someone reposts something, when someone likes something, and especially if it's within your circle, then the algorithm will pick it up and try and show it to you as well. So just try and if you can be active on LinkedIn, try and see be aware of the things that you like as well, because then the algorithm will pick up on those things, and they might, and other people can see as well, and other people can see what you liked and the things that you are sharing, and so forth. And that usually gets you into certain circles. And that's how the algorithm sort of puts you above other people when it comes to search strategies and so forth. There's a lot of whole science to it, but have your profile, have a picture, have at least a bio about what you're doing. Try to be detailed as much as possible. It becomes easy for people to find you.
I think I can attest to this. I once saw someone. When I was looking for a supervisor for, I'm not sure, the masters. Yeah, I think it was master.
PhD.
Yeah, no, it was it was the masters at the time. I was still looking for a supervisor for masters. So I searched for this person. I knew their name, and they popped up on Google. I was looking for their email address. I knew them. I know them personally, but then a whole lot of LinkedIn things that they've liked appeared on Google. Like, this is what they liked, and it was just part of their profile. Like, it profiled them, and the focus that they had was on research. They're like research, and I started to follow also those people that were in that thing. But my point is that after that, I know that after that they moved from one university to another, and then after that you never see them. They just disappeared. Even on LinkedIn, you won't find them. I think it was a strategy for them to be recruited by that specific university, wherever they were going, and using a strategy of liking certain research areas to show that they have an interest in that, so that the people they are recruiting can recruit them and take them in those spaces, or whoever is Googling them. And remember too, now I'm giving advice to companies want your social media profile sometimes. They'll say, let Google you and find you on social media and things that you like, that you deal with. So sometimes that happens. Okay, let's go back to what we were talking about.
Yeah. And I think just to add to that as well is that some recruitment companies have, I don't want to say intelligent searches, but they can take your name and they can kind of like, especially for important roles as well. So just be mindful what you sign up to, because if I take your email, I can sort of like run it through a software and it can sort of like show me, okay, this is where you have accounts and this is where you have accounts and you're signed up to this. And just use a different email. What you use for work versus what you use for, let them be different. Even if you have 5, it's fine. You do it for free. Just have, and sometimes your email says sexy B when you're
or 616 sexy B.
yeah.
Guys, we were young. We were never told about these things, okay? Not that I do it, but some people, when they create these emails, they were young.
So
Yeah.
just remember, there is that first word, and then there is the name that appears on the email. So just be mindful of those as well. I think it's important stuff, because sometimes these things speak for you when you're not in the room, and they can go against you or for you. So yeah, just things to be mindful.
I must compliment you, my brother, Elias. When you start talking this language that you're talking now, that has nothing to do with paramedicine. I don't know. It's like another world that I don't know. It's like you spend a lot of time in this space and you have depth knowledge as compared to a general person like me sometimes. But it's very refreshing and interesting to observe. Elias, what is a C book?
So a C book basically is it's like a think of it like a card, right? Where in order for every seaman has a C book.
Who's a
So
seaman? Who's a
a
seaman?
C being C is in like the ocean.
Yeah, but
Thanks for Clarice. That's what we're thinking.
Yeah,
continue.
So basically, every seagoing person has a C book. So this C book is basically where it's like it's I don't want to say it's your passport, but it's basically where they stamp. So like if you exit the cruise ship, for instance, you have to show it. And if you get back or so forth, you need to have it, because then that's where they log like all your rotations that you are doing and so forth.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think and I think it's different because I was coming from the UK, my process was different as compared to someone that that's coming from South Africa. When I had conversations with people that came from South Africa, their process was very different as well. And this is, I mean, I didn't have a UK passport, but it's very important when you're on the other side. This when you're coming from the other side. Life is unfair, guys. But in all honesty, like it was very different. Even the way you negotiate your salary when you're coming from the other side, it's like you are valued much more. But then, I look and they think that you are better, and they think that you are, it's just like, and I know this kind of transitions into something different, but it's like human life from the West is considered much more important than human life that comes from the third world. And these are things that this is a conversation on its own. But I think, just now that I'm speaking about it, it kind of reminds me of that. But basically, like my process took probably 2 months to get done. And I remember the only thing that I had to do eventually was just like the medical. And when I spoke to other people that came from other parts of the world, their process took a while because they are very, I don't know, they are very specific about what you must have. But probably because I came from the UK, it was pretty straightforward. So I got my C book. I think when I arrived, I can't remember when I got it, but yeah, it's one of those things that you have to get before you get onto a cruise ship.
So who gives you the C book? The company, HR? Where do you get it? Do you buy it like a passport?
I got mine on arrival, but other people get it within the country. There are certain companies that give them out, as I understand. But I got mine upon arrival.
Okay.
So yeah, so I had to do my medical, and then I think I had to do a BLS because obviously I was coming from Europe. We don't use the HA guidelines,
Yeah.
but I was coming to the US, so I had to do a BLS. I had to do ACLS. It's part of the requirements in order for you to work onto the cruise ship. Yeah, and then the rest of the trainings I did them on board, but sometimes you have to do them before you arrive. But depends what the demand is, and if they need someone immediately now, they can always relax the rules and so forth.
Yeah. When you're coming from South Africa, I get surprised that other people actually don't know what is BLS and what is ACLS, because they don't talk about those terms. So it's BLS, basic life support, and then the other one is advanced cardiac life support. I think this side, it will be ALS 1, ALS 2, advanced life support 1, advanced life support 2. It's normally offered by private companies that offer these courses. It's almost similar. Sometimes the recruiters will say either you must have either or, ALS 1, ALS 2, or ACLS. Am I correct there, Elias?
Yeah, no, definitely, that's correct. I think, and yeah, I was surprised that they don't do those trainings in the UK. Like it's not one of those, but everywhere you go, I think they use the American system. So usually you are required to do one or the other. Like BLS is like a must almost everywhere you get where you need to get a job, or at least most, like in Africa and in the Middle East at least.
And
Yeah.
before you move on, Ray, I want to know what are your thoughts on those courses?
I was about to talk about that too.
What are your thoughts? What are your views on doing the not just the AHA, but the BLSs and the ACLS and ITLS? Is it every 2 years now? Every 2 years. What are your views on that? Is it good? Is it bad?
I guess the thing is that I think it's generalized for everyone, but I don't think it should be. For some people that are clinically involved or do higher call volumes, I don't think it's as pertinent or it's as valuable. But for some people that work in isolated environments, I think it's very important because you might go 6 to 8 weeks without seeing a patient, especially if you're doing long contracts or whatever form of work that you're doing where you don't see patients. I think it's very important for refreshing your knowledge and just getting hands on and making sure that quality assurance, yes, ticks it, you are ready and you can perform these skills. I think BLS for a paramedic, I don't think it's as valuable for a paramedic. I just feel like the ACLS maybe. But also, like for instance, there's like if you are a paramedic in London, for instance, it's very few skills on the ACLS that you do. So I'm not sure how valuable it becomes. It's valuable for the insight, but for the practical part of things, it's not really as valuable because you don't get to apply most of those skills as much as others. I guess in cardiac arrest, but in terms of the other skills that come on the ACLS course, you don't really apply most of them, or at least you don't practice most of them. At least that's what I think.
Okay. Before I share my views, Melusi, what are yours?
I'll tell you, my lecturer used to say they were a money-making scheme. He used to say they were not necessary. Funny enough, he was teaching them too. He was teaching them.
Not, but I have to make. I have
Yeah,
a wallet that has a lot of space.
Yeah, he used to teach them at night, teach doctors how to do those things. And they used to be fascinated. Our lecturer is teaching doctors, But then we got to work and to do those courses too. And then to understand, oh, this is actually like this. It's set. It's like this. But I think there is value, as you said, Elias. If you do the types of cases that you learn about there frequently, then you don't really need to do a lot of these studies because you practice this thing. But now we know that if you don't use your knowledge, you get a bit rusty. If you don't think about it, you get a bit rusty. The way that I was interpreting ECGs when I was back in South Africa as comparing to here is a bit different. It's changed because there is very limited that you're expected to do. So I focus on that, But not that I don't know it, but I've forgotten it because I don't use it a lot. Sometimes you'll ask me complicated questions, then I need to start thinking, scratching, So it gathers dust. So it helps. I used to actually enjoy the pre-test that you do. You do it very quickly, and then you identify rhythms, and you can see at the end when you're doing the ACLS that these are your weaknesses, your medication, your drug choices, your identification of rhythms. I think that used to be great because you evaluate yourself and no one is going to judge you. You can do it a number of times until you get it right. And then you'll see that when you see real rhythms, you are able to identify them, So that was good. I think there is something good from it. But also, I do think that there is a component of trying to make money from it at the same time. Yeah, basically.
So I think
Before you continue, Tolani,
yeah.
did you ever teach them? You just need to know which side of the fence you are.
I was also going to declare my conflict of interest. Okay.
There we go.
Your
There we
interest.
go.
Yes. I mean, we need to declare, we need to be honest. So obviously, first of all, I taught BLS, I taught ACLS. I was an ACLS instructor, I was a BLS instructor, and I used to do it as a side gig, mostly on weekends or when it was whenever I was free and available, and I'll travel sometimes to distant locations in South Africa. And for me, I agree with Elias when he says that when you haven't seen a patient or haven't done, or you're not working in a space that provides you opportunity to even practice BLS or ACLS, it's important that you must do those cases so that should you encounter them, then you'll be able to function within that space. Whereas if you do it on a daily basis, I think he said that you shouldn't. I think it's important, but I don't have an answer for you whether you should do it every 2 years or not. But it's important that we must do these cases, whether it's a money-making scheme or not. I believe it's a money-making scheme, but it's important that we do it because of it's a refresher, it's part of continuous professional development, but it keeps you, let's say you develop bad habits and you go and do that, the ACLS or the BLSs again, you get back online and you start doing things or treating patients the correct way as per the guidelines. So yeah, I believe that's the case. It is expensive. I think it's even more expensive now, even if you have the same book. It's getting more expensive, and I've seen that companies in South Africa, they offer a payment subscription where you pay in a month for a period of months just to do those courses. It might be easier, but it's getting expensive. Also, one of the challenges that I've had is that I might be wrong, I might be right, but I don't think a lot of these courses are contextual within the countries that we're coming from. It's just a generic worldwide evidence that has been provided. For what we have, it works, but I think we still far from creating our own courses in the African context. But there is relevance that they play in our field, especially if you're working, as Elias said, working in a cruise ship, you're going there. That one particular case where you've got an ACLS case, you need to be able to manage it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I remember reading when I was a student, reading the references, and I saw I think Ravin Naidu referenced as one of the people that contributed one way or the other. I think, I'm not sure it was consulted or something. So I was very impressed that there was something that came out of South Africa. Well, maybe there were others that were also consulted. I don't know, but that was the name that I knew at the time. Also, I think that the other parts that I noted that sometimes is not realistic is that you have a lot of people on scene with the ACLS. You have a scriber, you have a team leader, you have a compressor, you have a drugs person, you have a lot of roles. Whereas most of the time it will be you, the ALS, and then the crews, 2 people, if things are working according to plan. That's in South Africa, and then you find your way around that. The good thing is that the theoretical knowledge is the same, the drugs will be the same that you'll be using on the patient, but the difference is that the number of people that will be on that scene may not reflect what is expected by the ACLS. I think those are the differences, as you said, that the courses are not really prepared for the African scene or how we do things in the African context. Having said that,
I think I was just gonna add, sorry, Malusi, I was just gonna add that I think there is some value to them though. Like I remember when I was in Namibia, when I think I did one of the ACLSs there, and I think we did ACLS, then we went to do PALS. And you obviously you work with the doctors, and then you see a doctor running like a code, and then you're like, ish, how this is not the way you run them in your hospital, you know? Because most of them just see cold cases, and they don't really get to see sort of like where they have to run like a full cardiac arrest. So I think in that sense, it's very valuable because then it exposes your weak points, and it's a space where you can learn, you can see other people running codes as well, and you can see how other people manage, how people position themselves in a scene, the way they sort of like approach it, especially around scene management and so forth. So I think it's also an opportunity for you to learn, from others that you are meeting out there. So yeah, I guess, it can have value in it, but I guess it's just who the value is going to. But I think for the paramedics, I'm not as sure. And depending on where you're working, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I guess it's uniformity. That's what I'm learning from what you say. Uniformity in how you run a code or how you run a resuscitation. That's it. I think that helps. It brings that uniformity. Everyone knows exactly their role. Hospital nurses, paramedics, GPs, as long as they've done the ACLS, there'll be uniformity. And also, what I'm also picking up is that normally paramedics will feel like they have knowledge supremacy, and I put it like that, because they are used to doing it and they've learned it. And then when they see someone else not doing it, they'll start judging them and say, look how you're doing it, yet you are that, which means that's the part. And also we are somehow expected to have high frequency in doing resuscitations as compared to a person that only treats geriatric patients, gives them high blood pressure medication, and that is their specialty, So
I don't think that's a specialty, but yeah.
No, there is definitely there is.
Handing out. What are you going to do? I'm going to work to hand out some blood pressure medications, But yeah, I get what you mean.
Yeah, you can be a geriatric specialist, and that's the type of job that you do. But also people can collapse in your rooms, so it might help to do it. So there is actually room for it everywhere. Anyway, let's move away from this topic now. I think we've spoken a lot about it. We're even laughing at other professions that we shouldn't. We're rude. Anyway,
Very much.
guidelines. Who determines the guidelines? Let's say you are in a sea, because you know that you are a sea, so you're not exactly in a country. And the countries have
Yeah.
their own guidelines. So who determines the guidelines that you're using while you're there?
I think every company has its like think of it like St. John's. They have their own guidelines, right?
Yeah.
So that's what they use. But I can't speak for other cruise ships because I've only been to one.
Yeah.
And that one was in the US, so they were using the US guidelines. But they had their I just can't remember the name of it due to all that. But they have a specific site where you go to check all the guidelines, everything else that you need to do. Everything is on there. Whether it's paperwork or whether it's something clinical, it's all on there. I think they call it ninth brain or something like that. So you have to go on there and you have to learn all those clinical guidelines. Now there's a challenge. When you come into a system and you are used to one system, now you have to obviously you have to adapt. But the thing is that you're working, you hit the ground running basically as soon as you start. You probably have like maybe 2 days to get an orientation, and then you have to start fulfilling sort of like the things that you have to learn, right? But then in the same space, you have to work as well. And then you have to learn these guidelines as well. So it's not easy. Honestly, it's not easy. And the workload as well that you have on there. I thought when you go on a cruise ship, you're just going to chill.
I like how your voice goes quick there.
You're probably gonna see someone, oh no, I stubbed my toe, or like, oh, I have a little bit of a cut after swimming, or like, oh, I was in the pool, or stuff like that. But it's not. Absolutely, it's not. It's the population that travels on the cruise ship is usually geriatrics or older populations.
Retirees.
I wanted to say it, but
exactly.
I didn't want to say it.
Retirees.
I wanted you to say it.
So usually these people do not have the best health either. And also part of the crew that work on the cruise ship are from the third world. So some of them, and I'm not saying all of them, some of them do come, just for treatment, or sometimes every now and then they will pop in, certain medical conditions that you have to sort. So it's always busy. It's always busy. So you might see an average at least 10 patients in a day. That's an average, even more. Remember, you're running a clinic, and in between, you are sort of like being called to know whoever in this cabin is not feeling well, or someone here. And sometimes you don't even have knowledge of the medication they're talking about or the condition that they have, because it's very medical. It's like running a GP practice. So and sometimes you are the first contact, and then you have to, either advise or you have to consult with a doctor, whatever the case might be. But yeah, that's sort of.
So for me, it sounds like more of like primary health care.
Very much.
And before I ask this one question, is that do you feel that now that you've worked in the cruise ship, you were adequately prepared? Because we've never done any cruise ship training in our paramedic training, but also, we've never done any training. Do you think you were adequately prepared to work, to function in those spaces in the cruise ship?
Not really, but before I went to the cruise ship, I did a little bit of community work. And with the community work, what you do is that you go to people's houses. It's either they were just recently discharged. You look at their discharge notes, you look at the medication that they have. You do a little bit of obs, you ask how they're doing, you sit on the couch, you have a little bit of a cup of tea, and you chat to them. But basically, there is that primary care aspect to it. You kind of.
Sorry. Whose cups are you using to make cup of
No, it's a joke.
Are you paying at the end?
But yeah, so there was some primary care experience to it, and you learned a little bit, but you can't prepare for it really. You get into it, you're a paramedic, you're a healthcare clinician. There's a lot that you have to learn. A lot of it is very medical, and some of it you don't know. So you have to learn from your colleagues. Hopefully you have good colleagues that don't judge you if you say, I actually don't know. But then the thing is, like, you don't know one thing, and then you don't know the third one, you don't know the fourth one.
Then
And remember,
go back to
and
school.
then it's a question of, say, are you really ready to work here? So Yeah, but you came from the UK. How come you don't know?
Yeah.
You know, so so yeah. I guess you're never ready. Really, you never really get training to work in a cruise ship, but you just learn as you go.
So, Elias, I don't know, just give us context when you spoke about I don't know if you're comfortable talking about it, but the paramedic healthcare space where you practice, what exactly? Were you still in the ambulance service? Where
Community
you
paramedicine.
community paramedicine? Yeah, that's what I was looking for.
Mm.
Um, no, well, basically, how you work is in the UK, they have a lot of community paramedics, and some of it have either they might have done like agent care training. I mean, I did some, community based sort of like, it's usually courses where you do like urine tests, where you do like a little bit of phlebotomy skills, and where you do like, I don't know, some, draw bloods and, know what to use, which tubes to use, and so forth. You do small bits of courses, but it's not nothing official. You have to learn on your own because you'll be doing the skills either way. An agency will call you and tell you, hey, listen, I have this here. Can you do? And then, when you pop up to the hospital, they are like, oh no, this patient is at home. They need these antibiotics to be administered to them. If you can be honest and say, I've never done it before, I'm not comfortable doing it, you'll not do it, But usually there is a course that you need to do, which is like agent care, which is basically every minor illnesses and, things that people or nurses will take care of in GPs. So you're basically stepping into the world of nurses. So what you do is in the morning you come into the hospital, you get at least 5 patients, and you get their file, and then you'll get the notes from the doctor, what the doctor wants you to do, and then you go out to their house, um, and then you do the assessment and so forth, and then you write notes. If you draw bloods, you bring the bloods back to the lab. After an hour or so, the lab will call you and tell you this is the results, and then you chat to your doctor, whoever the referral doctor was, and then you are like, hey, this is the patient's bloods, this is their clinical presentation when I saw them, this is how they are feeling, this is what I think needs to be done, or this is my clinical impression, what can we do? Yeah. Sometimes people, paramedics in this role have a prescriber's qualification. So you can always prescribe, or, like antibiotics, for instance, if you feel like they need another course of antibiotics or so, you can always do that. But yeah, it's a whole minor illness. This is sort of like a space that's growing in the UK at the moment. A lot of the paramedics are just working in the community.
Wow, wow. So I think you've
Are we still
I
talking
think I
about
like
the cruise ship?
no, yes, you still no, we're still talking about the cruise ship, and I still have one more question. Is that before I ask the question, is that I like the idea of community paramedic, because if you think about the emergency medical services or where we come from, if we had community paramedics, that would reduce the non-emergency low acuity patients that called 911. Basically, you've mentioned that you would assess and treat the patients at home. You'd help to manage the chronic conditions that they're having, and anything. Then you form as a coordinator between the doctors and yourself, but also the patient doesn't have to go to hospital. So it's good that it provides value. It decreases the workload on emergency medical services, and so something that I've always known, but I've never had someone talking about it to such an extent. And Elias, I know you've touched a bit on the differences. I'm sorry, I'm asking too many questions, but this is
Nah,
interesting.
that's we having a conversation.
Sorry to learn.
Yeah.
We still have a few more
Before you
minutes.
continue to the ship, I wanted to bring a conclusion to this community
Yeah.
paramedicine part. So
Yeah.
it's quite big here in Australia. The I think there is a person that has done a PhD in it that I know, but also there is a paper that I saw in Canada. I would really like to bring that gentleman here. I have his name in my head, but I don't want to jeopardize my chances of talking to him. The paper, it's a group of doctors, not PhD doctors, paramedics. So they've done a method that can be used in a specific community to determine the needs and how how to shape community paramedicine based on the location that you are in. So you can take that tool and use it in South Africa and decide that this is what the community needs and this is how you design community paramedicine. It's a very rapidly growing area. There's a lot of research that is coming out of this space. It is fascinating. I do really hope to get this gentleman. I'm gonna approach him soon.
Please
Yes.
do.
Yeah, if you,
You can
I'm always happy to approach them as well because
yeah.
I know my ways. Yeah, so I'll be happy to do that. So
I hope he watches this episode and he would be keen to
we'll send him the
join
episode.
us.
Don't worry as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, Elias, you've highlighted that there's differences between you've highlighted a lot of challenges that you experience in the cruise ship. But what are the biggest differences that you think are between paramedicine on a cruise ship versus land-based?
Can I first chat on the challenges? Because I feel like the challenges were many, and there is just certain things, and I mean, look, the thing is that I work for London Ambulance Service, and I thought that was busy because you see at least, I would see probably 7 patients in a shift, and I thought that was busy, but cruise ship you see a lot of cases, but it's mostly minor cases, but the thing with that is that this case, the paperwork that you have to do is quite a lot, and it takes up a lot of your time. And sometimes you might, especially at night, you're the only one that's working at night, or at least you're the only one that's on call, and you kind of make a decision. Okay, all right, we can sort out your problem now. Or like, oh wait, this needs prescription. The doctor needs to come prescribe, right? Or like, okay, what plan are we coming up with? While you're busy managing that patient, you get another call, someone at whatever cabin is not feeling well or they're throwing up, whatever the case might be. And then you run out there, and now you have like 2, 3 people, and then it's 2 o'clock in the morning. Someone else calls because they don't want to go to work, and now they want you to come check on them because for the crews, especially if they have diarrhea and vomiting, they need to report it immediately because it's a confined space, and you can't have any communicable diseases sort of like spreading because then you obviously that's business for the cruise ship, and any outbreaks is going to cost the cruise ship a lot of money. So basically there is quite a lot of those things that you did not know, and making sure that you are aware of all these things, like the time frames, it's everything else is pretty much reviewed, like, okay, so you saw this patient, this call came in at this time, and you saw this patient at this time, um okay, but this person did not report within the first hour of having this. They might get in trouble because if they don't report they might lose their job, because this is very strict, and stuff of that kind. So you being aware of that, recording it like that, it can bring a lot of, there's just a lot of logistics that come with paperwork and knowing what to say and how to say it and so forth. So I think that was a challenge on its own. And the other one is the workload. So I feel like because of the paperwork, the amount of people that you see, you mostly tired. Like you become very, very exhausted. Like you can be bent out easily on a cruise ship because of the number of people that you see. And sometimes when you're off, you are not really off because you're on a cruise ship. It's not like you can go anywhere to say, I'm off, guys, please don't call me or anything like that. You might every now and then have to go in to go assist and so forth. During the day you are in the clinic, during the night you are working at night, so you can be super, super exhausted. I think that's the kind of challenges that you encounter. And I think the other thing as well is just that you're working with people from different backgrounds as well, so really your team makes your contract. And it's not like you can decide, nah, I don't want to work with this person, whatever the case might be. You have to, because it's you're the only ones that are on there. So you have to find a way to get on with each other. Yeah. So I think yeah, just I think one of the other things I found is just the workload and just how busy it is. I think the expectations versus the reality, there was quite a discrepancy in it.
Tell me, what is the hierarchy of healthcare services in the ship?
So the senior nurse is the one that's sort of like running the clinic.
What qualification do they have? RN,
Yeah,
I suppose.
yeah, RN, yeah, and they just need to have prior experience. I think at least 2 years experience on the cruise ship, and then you have a senior doctor as well. They usually the senior nurse is, runs the thing, and the senior doctor will see the operation, sort of like the clinical practice aspect of it, and the senior nurse will oversee the practice of sort of like the daily functions and paperwork and the rest of the stuff of the medical center. And then you have a junior doc, which is like assisting the other doctor, and then you have two other nurses. Depends on how big your cruise ship is, of course, as well. And then usually you have two paramedics that rotate between them too, 24 hours on, 24 hours off.
And you are running around with your chair ambulance.
Yeah, you have like a chair, then you have like a jump bag, and I wish I could show a picture now, but I'll probably have to find it somewhere.
You'll find it. You'll post it for the viewers. I'm sure you can.
Yeah, I'll post it somewhere here so you can see.
No sirens.
Nah. I guess you can make with your mouth, but yeah. But yeah, I think the other thing that's also like, if you have like a major incident, let's say you have a cardiac arrest, usually there is a structure in which you go to a call, you find out it's a cardiac arrest, you have to call the bridge. The bridge will announce that obviously at this specific location, at this specific room, because remember now, this might be 7 floors, and it might be however long. So you need to be very specific about the information that you communicate and
To
where
address,
exactly it is. Yeah. So because one can throw the people either way, because sometimes you don't know which is left, which is right, which is east, which is west, and so forth. So and the cruise ship is moving all the time as well. So, just other dynamics. It's not like a stagnant station. So, and then they will announce. Once they announce, you usually have like everyone from medical will respond to that scene. And also some of there's people that work around the cruise ship. I can't remember the word they call them now, but it's like ushers, right? So they will bring everything else from the medical center. They'll bring your resource, sort of like equipment, all of it. They'll bring them to the scene. And the security will also come out to make sure that they confine the space wherever, keep the whole thing private and so forth, and just make sure that the person is, there's some form of privacy to it.
It's a fascinating world. And then in terms of your downtime, off times, how and the food, how does that work?
In terms of the food,
Food is important.
food is important, yeah. And I should say, when you go on a cruise ship, you need to exercise, yes, because you can gain weight there like wild. Because you don't cook, you just walk to the dining stations, and then you eat. Like, for instance, there were two dining. There's two. So there's one for the crew and there's one for the officers. So when you're a paramedic, you're an officer, so you eat with the rest of the officers. That is nice, that's comfortable, that's luxury. Sometimes you even get
Levels.
sometimes you sometimes you even get a menu. You can get in there, you can order from the menu. All is good. Usually, it's a buffet. You select what you want to eat, and that's it. But for the crew, sometimes it's the ghetto there, which is unfair sometimes. But in terms of the shift, is 24 hours on, 24 hours off.
I can see you laughing at them.
It's the ghetto. I mean, the thing is that it's good to go there, because then you make friends with other people, and also for the mere fact that you're African and you work in medical, and not just African because you're African. There's a lot of South African people, but the South African people there might be white, so they don't really associate with them as much. So when they see a black brother from Africa that's
mother.
working in medical, they just, there's a lot of people from the third world, either the likes of Nicaragua, and all other small islands there, and most of the African states that are out there. So when they see you, you make friends and get to know people. And a lot of South Africans out there, though, I gotta say, a lot of brothers from Soweto that I made friends with that are out there, and everywhere, pretty much across South Africa. But in Kenya, in Nigeria, and that's now the Caribbean. But
And then your time off, When do you get time off?
The time off is your 24 hours when you're off. So the 24 hours when you're on, and then 24 hours off.
Okay.
And then you usually do like a rotation of 4 months on, and then you get 2 months off. But the 2 months you don't get paid. Only the 4 months when you're at sea. So yeah.
Okay, so you need to look after your finances well
Yeah, very much.
for the 4 months.
Yeah, because the thing is just that as well, you think that you might be saving money on the cruise ship, but sometimes you don't. Sometimes because every port, if you are getting off at every port, you are spending. And some ports use US dollars and so forth, and you are buying stuff. And you might not be saving money. And almost every other night, you might be heading over to the crew bar to buy yourself a drink and, do stuff. So you might not always save money as you think. But it's very important. I think one thing that I'll say to the paramedic, if you get offered a job on the cruise ship, negotiate your salary. Don't just accept the salary they give you. Negotiate it. Make sure that you are not earning less. I know some people look at it in relation to what you are earning in the current position that you are, especially if you're in a third world. But try and negotiate for a good salary. Try and ask around how much do people earn. Obviously, on your first contract, you're not gonna earn as much because you still need to have experience. But just state your value. You need to negotiate whatever package you get.
Hey, when you talk about negotiating, I think it's important. I want to share my experiences. That first of all, I've been afraid to negotiate, and when I moved from one job to another, when I moved to that second job, I can't mention names or how because people would know. Is that I never negotiated, and when I went to the second company, the salary was a lot less and I never negotiated, which was a problem, creates frustration, and you end up leaving that job. And also, it's like you're burning bridges. You never stayed in a company for more than 6 months. So I think it's important that what you've highlighted, that even if you're afraid, find ways to negotiate so that you can come to an amicable decision. Because salary is one of the biggest drivers or factors for remaining in a job. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, fascinating. Would you do it again?
No. Maybe, but nah, I don't think so. I don't think I'll do it again. I think it's just, in all honesty, I think it has a lot of constraint on the relationships. I think it has a lot of constraint on especially for me, I do a lot of work outside just working. I like to take time to learn my things that I learn. I like my free time to do things that are not related to my work. But on the cruise ship, sometimes you don't have good internet connection at all. And internet connection is very expensive. And the things like that just get me very, very frustrated. And you are not allowed to do certain things on work computers. Obviously, it's a work computer. But then my computer that I have, I can't use it
Can't bring
because
it.
the internet on the yeah. So and then the other one is connected to the Ethernet. So I'm now, like I need to do things. So
Yeah.
it's very frustrating. It's yeah. I think if you someone that does things on the outside and you need to have phone calls as well, it just does not work.
I think I remember talking to you when I was in London on the phone. Yeah, it was.
Yeah, it's
You know, I am laughing.
It's-
I'm laughing. I'm laughing because I know Elias' internet technology and good connection. It's part of his life. It's like his Elias's needs. Like
Yeah.
it's
Next
Elias.
to
If he doesn't
oxygen.
have that, he was on
I'll
life
struggle.
support.
Yeah.
I'll struggle, and I think at that point because I just came from the World Cup. I was doing this gig on the community paramedicine. I had a lot of time. Like when you get like 5 jobs, you do 3 before lunch, and then after lunch you only have 2. So you had a lot of downtime. Like you can get into a house, do the job, do the paperwork in the car, and then you have another 30 minutes that you can sit on your phone and do everything else that you wanted. And there's just a lot of things that I was doing. And I think I just built up my TikTok page to, I think, maybe like 200,000 followers. So it was doing great. And I was making money of it. And now I went on the cruise ship. I could not do any of it. And the page just died. It lost the algorithm. So it was very frustrating. But yeah.
The tech guy.
Yeah.
The tech guy. How many people are normally in a ship at one point? Do you
What do you mean?
like how many people are you servicing as one paramedic with your chest stretcher in the whole?
The whole everyone?
Yeah.
Everyone. So that's
I mean
that's
the number quantity.
I think
you don't know.
I think the guests. I think it's around about 5,000 at least for Caribbean, right? That we are saving, because I think the staff were probably around about maybe 3,000, and then you have about 2,000 guests or something like that.
Oh.
So it's quite busy. Yeah, it's quite busy. And the thing is that you'll be surprised. I mean, I could be getting those numbers wrong, but they are around those figures. The thing is that you'll be surprised how many people live on the cruise ship. And they literally just live on it. Like during the rotation, all they do is just get someone, a steward, to just take care of their stuff luggage in their own cabin, and then they'll disembark and then check in again and go back into their room. So they've booked that place for like a whole year or whatever, because it's much more expensive to live on land than to live in a cruise ship. And the other thing is that everything else is done for you. You don't have to cook, you don't have to clean, you don't have to do anything, and there's always entertainment, because you can always go to the casino, you can always meet new people, you're always traveling to new locations, so it's adventure for them, so they just live on there. And one thing I would say is, if you're on the cruise ship, try not to get medical care if you can. And if you are going on there, please make sure that you have insurance at all times. Make sure that you have travel insurance, and just keep a little bit of cash on you, especially if you are someone that has, I don't know, a pre-existing condition. Because then if you have an incident on there, you have to pay before you disembark. If you can't, they're gonna be like, well, we need our money. And sometimes things on there are just expensive.
Yeah.
I think the highest bill that I've seen was probably like 50,000. Imagine paying out 50,000 right now. Just take me. Just,
What 50? What dollars?
yeah, US dollars.
Yo.
Yeah, and you have to pay that, and then you have to claim from your insurance.
Oh, as a client now. Yeah.
Yeah, as a service user, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you're going on a cruise ship, take your medication, take your paracetamol, take everything, because it just becomes a little bit expensive. Let's just advise to everyone else watching our podcast that's going to be traveling on a cruise ship. Try and take your medication if you can. Try not to seek medical care. It's expensive.
I think I'll miss cycling. I'll miss running. That will frustrate me.
I guess you can do the treadmill.
Nah, it's not the same. You want to run outside, listen to the birds, watch the sunset, want to struggle, puff, and can't breathe, while you're cycling or whatever, Nah, not for me. Not for me.
But some people stay on there for years and years. They enjoy it. They love it.
Yeah.
But it can be a long-term career for someone. I only, for disclosure, I only did one contract. I have not done more. It was 4 months. And I don't think I'll go back, but I think it was a good time while it lasted.
And Elias, you spoke about, I think it was more in general about the public on what things that they should have, especially with medical insurance. Now, for someone who's a paramedic watching this podcast, what advice would you give to other paramedics considering working on a cruise ship?
I think just be aware that that cruise ship life is very, I think one perspective that I can say is just be mindful that you'll be gone for a while, and a while it can be 4 months, sometimes 6 months as well. If they can't find someone to replace you, then they might not be keen to let you go, because they need the position filled, and sometimes they just don't have someone. So just be mindful of that, and it can have a lot of constraints on the relationships as well. So I think that's very important. And the other thing as well is just that don't think that it's gonna be all sunshine and, I don't know, rainbows, because sometimes it's not, and you might struggle to fit in. I remember the guy that was replacing me just found it difficult, because he was like, I don't understand, how do I have to learn all these things all at once? And I would not say I was that efficient with the system either. I just felt like there were so many things that you have to learn in quite a short period of time. The handover period that you get is, 2 to 3 days. It's a new system. You might just not have a lot of time. So those things are normal at the beginning. And if you are not comfortable, I think you should just speak to your senior doctors. Some senior doctors are pretty chill. And some of them are not chilled as much. Some of them might not even allow you to do stuff. The thing is that you'll be surprised the kind of skill sets that you have on a cruise ship. You are recruited as an advanced life support paramedic, but you'll be working like a BLS. You can't do a lot of things unless the doctor says so or the doctor is comfortable you doing that. But I have to be honest, I learned new things. Like I learned how to take x-rays, on a cruise ship, and do all kinds, like do bloods, do all kinds of respiratory tests, because you're running a clinic basically. So you learn a lot of skills, especially a lot of nursing based skills, which is good. And you learn to run a pharmacy. And I have to be honest, guys, I have made so many drug errors on the cruise ship.
As long as it's not ketamine.
No, not the strange ones, but it's like the other regular stuff, because you're just not used to running a GP practice, and that's what you're doing in actual fact. Like you have to make sure when they come in, they sign, all kinds of forms to say, hey, I'm coming in, I'll be paying for this treatment. If you're doing a prescription, you have to charge them. And you need to relay with the customer service to make sure that they get the invoice of whatever the treatment that they got. It's like you're running a GP practice, and it can be a lot. It can be overwhelming. So yeah, having a little bit of that experience might help. But you get on, you learn. Your colleagues will teach you. Some of them have been there for years, so you can learn a lot from them.
Wow, it's interesting. And Elias, from your perspective, do you think there's any specific skills or qualifications that are particularly beneficial for this type of role or working in the cruise ships?
Yeah, I think learning a little bit, because you do treat a little bit of, I don't want to, because I guess I guess not as much, but having a little bit of knowledge on marine life and the kind of emergencies in that space could be beneficial. I think having a good background in minor illnesses, because you'll be seeing a lot of the crew members with like calcification, or like, I don't know, all kinds of things that grow under their feet, or dermatological conditions, because now obviously they are in this space. Now they start getting pimples in all kinds of locations, and then they come to you and you're like, I don't know what's going on here. I have to refer to the doctor. You can't be referring everyone to the doctor, because then the doctor will be like, chief, like, can you sort this one out? And you're like, but I'm not confident to sort this one out. And so there's a lot of like minor illnesses that you see, sort of like small cases, that you don't consider life threatening, but these are the cases that are presenting to the medical center. So you have to assess it, you have to come up with a plan, and then you do follow-ups as well. So there's quite a lot that you do, because sometimes the clinic is overwhelmed that you have to step up and do all, just not refer to the doctor, but also do treat and prescribe. Yeah. And I think one of the other things that I learned on the cruise ship is that when you prescribe, you can't dispense as well, just to avoid drug errors and stuff of that kind. So, which is something that you don't do on the ambulance. You don't prescribe, but there you do. And just understanding and learning and being comfortable with it and doing it efficiently, I think.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I think it's important. The stuff that you've mentioned, I never even thought of that, and thanks for sharing all that experience and knowledge. And do you think that there's any misconceptions that people might have about paramedics working on a cruise ship? Like,
I think,
yeah.
I guess there's two parts. One, to employers, and to other paramedics.
Tell
To
us
the
more.
employers, I remember one person that was applying from the cruise ship, and they were rejected the role because they felt that the cruise ships do not have the patient contact that you will have on the road. But in actual fact, you get much more patient contact on the cruise ship than you do on the road. But the patient contact types are different, though. There, it's much more of a primary. Think of it as someone working in a GP practice. That's the kind of contact that you get on there. But it's more, it's not less. For the clinicians, it can be difficult to adapt to the system, but you eventually get a hang of it. And it's great. If you have a great team, in all honesty, you'll enjoy it. And you make a lot of friends with the people that you work with. And you learn to make friends with people from different departments and, learn favors, doing each other favors and so forth. And you make best friends. I promise you that. Especially people working in, I don't know, if your shift is running late, you can always make friends with someone from the kitchen and be like, hey, I'll be missing lunch. Can you just organize a plate for me? This is what I
Kitchen, very
like. And,
important, very important. The kitchen.
yeah, so you make friends with all kinds of people, which is great. It's and you get to learn people from different parts of the world as well. And yeah, it's just there's so much diversity on there that you will not even believe, what nationalities and then you'll be like, you are from where? Where's that?
Mm.
Especially the smaller islands. And you're like, I've never heard of that one before. So you do learn in the process.
Yeah, interesting. Look, thank you, Elias, for your time and for telling us about your experience. I don't think that we've had any other opportunity to understand it in fine details like you have. I think the good thing about the podcast is that you can sit down and actually ask questions that are focused on that specific topic. Although sometimes we do deviate because we have a lot of interest, but it's fascinating. I do hope that our viewers find this valuable to them. Yeah, it's one of the things that I am picking up is that community paramedicine, primary healthcare, it's not something that you should completely ignore as part of the career because it can make a good deviation as an alternative career pathway. I do think that we do need to focus a little bit on that. Maybe at uni too, because we end up working in these spaces. And I do remember that also other paramedics that are working in the mines, they do have that primary healthcare experience that they get from there, which are also paramedics. They must also have those ACLS courses and stuff like that. So this is a very interesting space. We thank you for watching, and we hope that you have learned something from this. Thank you.